Hey, and welcome back, friends, to this episode.
Today we are answering more of your questions.
Thanks for sending them, by the way.
Thanks for sending them in.
We've been getting a lot.
Quite a few to go through, and it's been exciting for us to learn where our audience is at, what you're really walking through.
Yeah.
You know, when we're on this side of the camera, we're not able to hear from you on these are the real struggles we're walking through. And so most of our videos come from our experience and couples that we have worked with. And so thank you so much for sharing your lives and sharing where you are in your marriage journey with us.
I really feel like today's question is going to resonate with a lot of you. A lot of our audience are really going to relate to this particular subject.
Okay, so it says, I just recently found your page, and oh my goodness, do I connect with a lot of things you're saying. Our stories are so similar, right down to my husband was exposed to pornography at a young age, and to the discovery was in the 12th year of marriage. And we also have 3 children. I'm trying to do the work you guys teach in your videos, which way to go, by the way. That is awesome. And really try to see what my thorns are and how they're affecting my life. I brought it up to my husband yesterday, and it did not go well. My question is, how do I try to communicate my thoughts and feelings to get them out when my husband isn't emotionally safe and doesn't seem to think he has a problem? How do I help him see that I need safety for us to be able to communicate well? I just don't know what to do. I'm trying all different ways to communicate, and he says he's feeling judged and criticized, even when I'm not saying things that way. It goes through his cup of those things, and he hears them all mixed around with judgment and criticism from his past. How do I help him see that? And so Travis and I were planning out this video, and we felt like we needed a little bit more context on what that conversation looked like. So here's what she said back. I have a lot of emotions, thoughts, and feelings about this situation. My heart is broken, and it helps me so much to be able to get things out and just have them heard and validated.
Right.
I have tried to bring a lot of things that didn't go well. One, a lot of times I'm just trying to share my feelings and emotions to get them out. If I don't get them out, they start causing chaos in my head, and it just keeps going on repeat until I finally get it out. And usually it doesn't come out the best way. Are you resonating with this?
I was just about to ask the same thing.
I know I resonate with this because I was experiencing the same thing.
Yeah.
Emotions such as hurt, expressing how I don't understand how he could do something like that. How is something that hurts someone else so much worth the devastation? Just me processing stuff that he doesn't want to hear or feel guilty over. I feel very much alone in this process because I have so many things I want to get off my chest, and I can't go to him to get it out because I know they won't be received well. Specifically, one time I tried to work through my feelings using journaling that Adele walked through in one of the videos, and it helped me so much, and I was so proud of myself for doing the work. I tried to share it with him, and he freaked out. 2, not saying I'm perfect, we never had healthy communication, so I was always scared to bring anything up in fear that he would freak out. So I am already on the defense when I try to bring up my thoughts and feelings. I feel sometimes it doesn't even matter how I approach something. It is just what I say that causes the issue. He does not know how I feel because he has never been through the pain. And if he doesn't agree with the feeling I'm having or he feels judged, it goes downhill very quickly. With the journal example, I just read how I was feeling and what the thoughts were brought up because of that feeling, and that was too much for him. He wasn't even listening to me for most of the part, and he already had a wall up and was mad for the things I was thinking. Even though I told him in the beginning that these thoughts might not even be true, but they are just thoughts, and I am having them because of this feeling. I just wanted to mention how much of a blessing it has been to have found your channel. There are so many similarities between Travis and my husband, and I feel so much connection with what Adele says. We definitely think many of the same ways. It helps so much to hear her story because it brings me comfort knowing that I am normal with how I'm feeling and thinking. My husband and sometimes counselor make me feel crazy, like I'm doing all the wrong things, and it's hard to know what to do and think sometimes. I wish my husband would watch these videos with me, but he doesn't like for me to tell him what to do. He says I should focus on myself and let God deal with him. I am at a loss to know what to do and how to heal. I want to so badly, but my hurt and fear are still so intense, and I just don't know what to do most of the time. Thank you for all you do to be a light to those of us who are in dark times of their life.
Listen, you may want to tune out. You may be like, well, that isn't my whole story, or I don't relate to all of that. But let me tell you something, like everything you read in there, the couples that we coach going through betrayal, that is mimicking most of their conversations.
Yes.
That mimics most of our conversations. When there's an unhealthy relationship, unhealthy communication, these sorts of things happen. This whole miscommunication, everything you listed in there, everything you listed.
Yeah.
So before you tune out, this is the majority of the couples and betrayal is this right here.
Right, because there is, first of all, there's a war that's happening in both of your hearts. And I just want to say I'm sorry for the pain that you're feeling, for the loneliness, for feeling like you are going through this alone. I'm sorry that you're going through that.
Yeah, or that you even went through the betrayal side. There's so much pain involved in that for each one of you listening today, of going through that betrayal side of there is a mourning of the loss of the marriage that you thought you had.
Right.
No matter what that marriage was like, there's still a mourning of the loss because now you've been betrayed in that.
Right.
marriage.
And before betrayal, there is trust and loyalty and unity and
Yeah.
one. But then that betrayal happens and it severs all of that. And so that's where that loss comes from, is this losing of things that are so valuable to have. Like you can't just get them back in an instant.
There's so many things in this particular email that I feel like I could talk for 2 hours on. How can we best serve the lady who wrote this and also everybody watching today? How do you think?
So let's first look at what is the betrayer going through during this time.
I heard her mention some things about shame and that he doesn't even want to listen to her. And I remember vividly me and you in this particular instance. And I didn't want to hear a lot of the things that you said around your feelings because it made me feel more and more shame. I already felt horrible shame for
Right.
the things I had done. And I had this shame blanket, this 50-pound feeling shame blanket all over me that it made it very difficult for me to hear, see you. It was like this veil was over my eyes. It was
Right.
difficult for me to really see your pain and your hurt. Really, shame made it all about me. You know, my pain that I inflicted on you, I turned it around on me, not on purpose. I don't think anybody purposefully has this shame. It's spiritual warfare that is designed to take us out. Shame says that there's something wrong with me as a person, versus guilt is I've done something wrong. You know, but there was a specific thing in there where she wants to ask some questions about like why.
Right.
How
The
could you?
questions were, how is something that hurts someone else so much worth the devastation? And how could you do something like that? I mean, I
Absolutely.
asked questions very similar
Yes.
to that. And for me, what I started to see, and I was in therapy 3 times a week. I needed intense, like CPR
Yeah.
on my heart. And so my therapist was just walking me through the different questions to ask and what not to ask and what isn't going to serve our marriage, what is going to get us more stuck. And these questions here are really asking why. Why did you do this to me?
Yes.
you
There's
speak to
no
that?
answer. Yeah, there is no answer that you're ever going to receive that would give you, oh, okay, well that's why he did that to me. No. Because what you're searching for is what's wrong with me.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. And these questions of why would you do that or anything related to that is not going to give you an answer that will ever satisfy you. Because here's the reason. It's because it has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with you.
Right. But what's so interesting about that, when I was saying, why me? Why did you do this? I was looking for you to blame me in that. Because in my mind,
What did
it
I do wrong?
must be my fault. I must have done
Oh.
something. And I'm just now becoming aware of that as you were talking.
That's good.
And so,
Because I could blame you.
well, I think it's natural to be defensive
Yeah.
when there's these kind of questions, either defensive or just shut down or feel more shame. Because these kind of questions are piling on top of the shame that you're already feeling. It's making it greater and heavier to bear.
Yeah, it would be. It would be. There's once again, there's no answer that your spouse could ever give you that would answer why effectively, because it would mean like, what's wrong with me that they would do this? And it has
Right.
nothing to do with you. It has to do with their heart. What's going on in their
Right.
heart.
The why, and you can hear this from us, the why is there is a void within your spouse's heart that he is seeking to fill with something other than God. That's the real why. And
Yeah.
we learn to escape. In fact, we just released a video with Matt Klein where we talk all about the why this happened.
It's true that a wife, it's so hard because it logically all makes sense. Well, if he's going outside the marriage, it must be that I'm not good enough. And then all of these logical arguments for why he's done it to me or why this has happened to me, it all makes sense.
And it is an incredible, insightful conversation that you'll want to tune into. So if Travis, he'll put the link up here for you so that you can go watch that after this video. Here's another way that may benefit you is to look for a professional that you can go to and get the chaos that's going on inside your mind with your thoughts and your feelings. Go find someone that you can trust that loves Jesus and loves you and loves marriage, and confide in them. Get those thoughts out with someone else. That way you can actually start to process what's going on in there for you so that when you actually come back to share, you're sharing on a different level. You're sharing having worked out all the issues in your heart, and you're sharing from a place of, this is just what I saw for myself. And it has a different way of coming out than when I am still processing. It comes out very blaming. It comes out as though I'm attacking you. I remember so many conversations where I would just watch you basically sink in your seat. The words that were coming out of my mouth, I mean, we were both in the space we had never been in before.
Yeah, right.
And so I imagine the betrayer in your marriage feels very similar, that they don't know what to do with all of that.
Yeah.
And so there's a way that we can actually teach our spouses to show up more emotionally safe. And that's through me showing up safe for you to begin with. And when I start doing that and I create the emotional safety, it does start to lower the walls of the other spouse.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. It really is important that you get things out of your mouth. You know, our head turns up that volume. The enemy wants to lie to us, and he wants us to stay stuck in those lies. It's really important that you get them out. And I hear in your message that you try to get those out to your husband, but here's reality. Obviously, he's not in a safe place for you to get those out. We need to speak in a safe place, you know. So I like what you're saying. Get somebody, a trusted counselor. It could be a great friend who is going to give you good advice or at least listen to you. Outside of that, though, I love what you said about journaling. Writing it out.
Yes, that's so healing. So healing.
Write it out. Get it out. And I love that you did that, because what you're doing is you're getting these thoughts out. And when they're out there, now you can really look at them and go, oh, man, that's not true at all.
Right.
You know, that's not what God says about me. That's not what God says about my relationship. You know, that's a lie straight from Satan. And we can see it when it's out there on the journal. So that's great that you do that.
Yeah.
And speaking of getting them out, in your message, there's so many things that you listed that you're actively doing that we teach. That's huge. Way to go. Way to go.
I just want to give you a pat on the back for that, because it is rare for people to actually watch something
Rare.
and then take it on and try it.
Yeah.
And by doing that, you are going to make a difference. It may take some time, but your spouse is going to see that things are changing, that you are showing up different. And when you do that, more and more and more, you're creating that safety for your spouse. And they start to see that. And you know, there's still times where we show up unsafe for each other.
Absolutely.
And all it takes is one person initiating that safety.
It does, it is influences. Like when you choose to be safe for me, and I'm coming with my judgment, because I do come with my judgment sometimes, and you choose to be safe for me, it alters me. It changes me. I'm like, oh, I need to let this go. I need to put this away because it's not helping me, because you're showing up safe.
while you were saying that, I was thinking of just the importance of how I'm sharing. And, you know, by going to my counselor, I was able to process all the things out. And she was able to help me realize, like, what is the actual heart issue that I'm dealing with? I'm feeling betrayed and I'm feeling a loss of the marriage. Then I'm able to actually come back and share from a heart level with you. So if you ever find yourself saying you in the sharing and I'm saying you, that is going to put blame. It's going to put that shame a lot heavier. And what I want to do as a spouse is I want to create openness and vulnerability in our conversations. I don't want to add more weight to your side because then I know that you can't hear me. You're not going to be able to see my heart. You're going to see me as blaming you. And I mean, don't we both already know you're the one at fault? Like, that's really what's going on. And so, you know, labeling what's going on in your heart, but using I statements of, I feel betrayed when
This happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. Using I statements is a very healthy way to enter into the conversation. Once again, it still requires the spouse to still be safe. But it does disarm the spouse because I'm not saying you. You made a comment that your husband doesn't want to be told what to do. Well, that's everybody. Nobody wants to be told what to do. And specifically, people don't want to be wrong.
Right.
I don't want to be wrong. And so when you are saying something like that would somehow come across accusatory, even though I am the betrayer in this relationship, even though I know that, if it comes across accusatory to me, I'm going to be defensive or I'm going to shut down. I'm going to do something that's going to be unhealthy.
Right.
Because it's not setting up a safe place. But what you're talking about when you're saying like an I statement, like I feel not good enough whenever this happens. Sharing about yourself would be important and not saying, when you do this, this is what happens. Or you make me feel not good enough.
Right. Right. What was coming up for me is I remember having conversations with you and conversations probably more in the last couple years where God has just showed me something and I'm excited about it. And I want you to do the same thing to get the same results. Okay. And I heard this a little bit in this message, and obviously we were not there for this conversation, but I want to share from my perspective what I was doing and how I was sharing was the problem. My heart was in the right place. And that's, I think, what communication is all about, is learning the right verbiage to land well on the other side.
Yeah.
And so I would share all these things, and then I would project on you that you have all the same problems that God showed me, and you need to go deal with that.
The same way that you dealt with yours.
The same way I dealt with mine.
And expect me to immediately share why I'm doing that or how I'm doing that and the progress.
Yeah, or what does this look like in your life? You know, what did you do in your past? And it would trigger him. It would make him feel, you would actually go blank a lot of times because you were just like, I'm being asked a question that I don't know how to answer and I don't know what to say. And I'm feeling controlled and I'm feeling all these things. I'm failure. I'm even more not good enough. You just proved it by what you said. So he wasn't even able to hear that God was working in my life because of my projection onto you. The Lord encouraged me to go about it in a different way. It was about a year and a half ago. And so I went to you and I shared. It's true. I went to you and I shared something profound that the Lord showed me. And I knew that you were dealing with it also. And I knew that was the root of why we were arguing that day. And, but he prompted me to be quiet about it and not ask you, like, what do you think about your own life? And I watched him work in your heart right in front of me while I said nothing other than I shared from my own experience what God showed me and how powerful it was for me. And it impacted you.
Yeah, you were a great influence on me. It was a very emotional day for me.
It was, because you let go of a huge burden, a bondage that you had been living with since you were a child.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me of that. I forgot about that. But that had a huge influence on me, that you went about differently in the conversation.
Ever since, I have realized that that's God's job, that when I really want to share something from my heart, it's God's job to impress upon you to do something about that. The Holy Spirit works in supernatural ways. And so it could be something I said that just triggered in you of, oh, and then the Holy Spirit speaking to you. And just what a cool experience and what a different experience it was to all the times previous of that.
Yeah.
And so that's something I just recently learned. And it takes a lot of practice and not trying to fix and control my spouse and where they are. It's really hard, but really it's so easy because it's about letting go. And that's what I ultimately wanted to share with you today. There is a process of letting go of your spouse because you have to get to the point that no matter what they do, you are good. And the only way that that happens is when you run to God. He is calling you to a deeper relationship with him during this time. And so I just want to encourage you, run to him. If you don't have a relationship with him, he does not care. Run to him. He wants to comfort you. He wants to heal you. He wants to be the one that fulfills you and satisfies you in your life. It cannot come from your spouse. There's just no possible way that you can fulfill and heal me the way I need to be healed.
Right. You could pray for your spouse. You can encourage. You can be a good influence. But controlling never, ever works.
No, and it's such a trap. I mean, I was controlling you in ways I had no idea I was even doing it. And so when I let go and I really surrendered him over to God, it was a complete letting go. I'm not going to try to fix and change you at all. That's God's job. And I've watched him do more in the short time frame that I've surrendered than ever. Because I got out of the way. Sometimes we're in the way of what God wants to do in our spouse, and we just have to let go.
Oh, no, there's a word. That's a good word.
Thanks. Yeah. So there were several aspects that we mentioned in this video, like what questions to ask, how to not add to the guilt and shame, how to receive the support that you need. All of those we actually have in our Walking Through Betrayal course. And thank you for submitting this question. We are going to gift you a Walking Through Betrayal. And we know that this is going to really support you with a lot of the questions you had that go even deeper than what we shared on this video today. And so if you are also watching this, I just want to encourage you to go check out that course. It is a step-by-step guide that you alone, without your spouse, can take and receive so much value, so much healing, because it is a step-by-step process that will help you walk through all the different stages of grief and things that you're walking through right now.
Yeah, it really does help to heal in a God-honoring way.
It does. It's lasting healing, and I know that's what you want. I know that each one of you that's watching this that has pain in your marriage, you want lasting healing. You don't want this to come back.
Exactly.
So, also, I just want to mention, if you are a wife going through betrayal, there is a support group called Journey Beyond Betrayal. We actually did an interview with Kate and her husband, Will, a couple months ago. And so you're welcome to go back. We'll put a link here for that video so you can go watch it. But she has a community that is just for wives.
What a beautiful ministry that she has.
It is. And it is there to support you in exactly what you're walking through right now. It's a very unique community that she's created. And so we'll put a link here for her as well, so you can go check that out, where you can have community with other wives who are walking the same journey, maybe even ahead of you, and other wives you can even pour into in the midst of your pain. And I know that is where a lot of healing can happen, is when you're pouring into others who are also walking through the exact same thing you are.
Yes, there's exponential healing in a healthy community that they are walking through this together.
That's right.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so check that out.
Hey, if you found this information helpful, we would love if you would consider subscribing.
It's a way that you can support our channel in continuing to bring you free content. It is such a privilege and honor for us to help you walk through this journey. Based off of our own experience and what the Lord has done in our own lives, we are just excited to share our story. Yeah. Speaking of story, we have some really exciting episodes coming up that are more about our story and maybe even about a book that's being written. I don't know. But you're going to want to stay tuned for that, because we have some exciting ways that we want you guys to get involved in the writing of our first book. Yeah. Thanks for joining us today on this episode, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
What is the question?
Right.
Thank you for that.
idea what you just said, so I'm hoping I don't need to say anything back. Bless you.
Whew.
Are you gonna say something about subscribing?
Hey, will you subscribe? Seriously. Like, for reals.
Okay, ready? Go.
Subscribe now.
No. We have some exciting episodes coming up that you're gonna. Let me say that. Speaking of story.